Katt Williams knows something that we don't know.
It's a cabal. It's a consortium. The Chris Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker. We were both invited to an Illuminati thing. 30 years I've done nothing but collect information, knowledge, and your secrets. I know so many things I shouldn't know, and they all know it.
What up, everybody? Esoteric Eddie here. Namaste. Today, we're going to briefly check out this strange Katt Williams interview that he did on the Shay Shay podcast. In this interview is pretty wild, man. I mean, first and foremost, let me say that Katt Williams is a real one, man. He is a real one, 1000% OG. He's been at it for decades, just dropping truth after truth. He's been out here talking about the Illuminati since day one, man, and the media has been after him for so many years, putting disrespect on his name, but every time he gets right back up and shows us exactly who he is, which is a badass motherfucker, and a truth speaker and a man of God. Amongst many other things. So I watched this interview. I watched it and listened to it throughout the day and wrote some pretty interesting timestamps here that you can't really see because the light is super bright. But anyway, I wrote some timestamps and I cut up some of what I thought were some really interesting pieces of the interview in which he speaks about basically the Illuminati and Hollywood and stuff like that. And I wanted to throw more compilations from previous interviews and videos of his where he talks about this stuff. It's not necessary, and to be honest, I just didn't have the time. But I'm sure many of you have seen plenty of these Katt Williams compilations or some of these other excerpts or clips from other interviews in which he talks about exposing Hollywood and stuff like that. I mean, he's done it so many times, and some of you might be asking, how has he not been taken out? And he was asked that on this podcast, and his answer was, as you'll see in these clips, was that he knows secrets. He's got secrets on motherfuckers. He's got blackmail, and a lot of these people are afraid of him. Because you think we all perceive a lot of these celebrities and people a certain way from behind the screen. But in real life, as he explains in the totality of this interview, in real life, there's a difference when you meet people. When you meet somebody in the physical form, their energy, doesn't lie. Right? So these celebrities, whatever, behind the screen, they might be all big, but in person, they know what master they serve, and they can tell right away what master you serve, and those energies are either going to bond or they're going to contend. And Katt Williams is a real one, a real motherfucker. And I didn't clip everything that was important in this interview. I mean, there was a lot of important messages, I'm saying, throughout this interview. I didn't clip it all. But I just want to let you know, for context, the reason he did this podcast interview is because apparently Shay Shay, who was a ex-NFL player, had a few other comedians on who a lot of us grew up watching. Cedric the Entertainer. Who was the other one? Oh, Ricky Smiley, and these guys, I guess, were like telling tall tales about the industry, specifically having to do with Katt Williams. And so Katt Williams came on this show to set the record straight, and boy, did he do that. I mean, he talked major shit, dropping names like he usually does, and set the record straight about his career and these guys like Cedric the Entertainer, Ricky Smiley, Kevin Hart. Calls Kevin Hart a plant and says that Kevin Hart came out of nowhere and he was an industry plant, and these guys are all fakes in real life and they're lames. He's talking shit on Steve Harvey. To be honest, I liked Steve Harvey, but after I watched this interview, I don't know anymore. I kind of view him. Well, the thing is, I kind of always suspected Steve Harvey was a lame. I mean, look, I'm no one to speak. I don't know the man, nothing. But there's just certain people, like you kind of, for me at least, I just, even from a distance behind the screen, I can kind of tell there's something weird about him. Like Bill Cosby was one of those motherfuckers. I shit you not. Ever since I was a kid, I remember me and my siblings, or my brother in specific, used to love watching the Cosby Show. And yeah, objectively cool show. But I never liked it. I was always so pissed off. I was like, the fucking Cosby Show. Like, I get it. Like, objectively, some classic shit in there. But there was just always something about Cosby that I just didn't like. And well, now I get it. And I always felt the same thing about Steve Harvey too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But now I know why, man. So he was talking shit, dropping names throughout the entire interview, explaining what the industry is really like. And so we're gonna move through these clips that I got and just hear this knowledge, man. Hear Katt Williams go hard on these motherfuckers. Sorry for all the cursing. I am tired. It is actually past my bedtime right now, but I'm working overtime to bring y'all some quality. All right, here we go. So let's get into it.
Oh, and they all know it. Race is not where the line is drawn. It's God's side and the other side. Up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. All lies will be exposed. That's all. 30 years I've done nothing but collect information, knowledge, and your secrets. So if you and a man was in a corner doing something you wasn't supposed to be doing, I gather that, I value that, I'll pay for that. I know so many things I shouldn't know, and they all know it.
Are you?
Damn, I mean, already like that is just wild. And again, one thing that I've always liked about Katt Williams is that he was a man of God, and I consider myself a believer in Christ. I don't know if I would say I'm a follower of Christ, because I mean, Lord knows I am flawed, I'm broken, but I'm definitely a believer in Christ. And the older I get, the less, I guess, insecure I am in admitting that. And it's kind of funny to say that because I grew up in the church, and church was kind of embarrassing for me as a teen, as a kid, as a young person. It was just embarrassing because it was like, this is my parents' thing, And somebody brought this up to me recently. Actually, multiple people have said this to me throughout my life, and that is, the older we get, the more we believe in religion, the more we start to understand our parents and church and the Bible, and kind of go back to it. And actually, I think I was on the Concrete podcast that I was on with Danny, and he brought that up. And he's kind of true. The older we get, the more mature we get, it seems like the more we go back to religion, back to church, and back to our parents' teachings. And he was saying that it was probably because we get perplexed or, afraid of death. The older we get, the more the reality of death sets in. And so now we're like, oh man, maybe we should believe in God or whatever, or the human trait of worship and religious dogma kind of kicks in, and we're trying to find a way to cope with life, So there's definitely truth to all of that. But for me, it's always been in me. I grew up in it, so I always had a love for the Bible, had a love for God and Jesus. I just went through a phase of angst, of hatred, of discomfort, embarrassment, insecurity, all these things, And there was a time where I was kind of embarrassed to admit that I believe in Christ. And I hated that because I was always afraid of that verse in the Bible where Jesus says that, if you deny him, he will also deny you in the kingdom of heaven. And that always scared me more than anything else, And so like, nah, bro, like I'm not denying I'm a believer of Christ. And like I've said before, it's kind of a, what's the word? It's a paradox, because I can theoretically, academically disprove Christianity and all these things, theoretically speaking, through the work that I do. but I still believe, And so, anyways, I'm saying all that to say that I respect that Katt Williams is vocal about his belief in Christ and God, and is vocal about speaking up against the evils, against the satanic energies, if you will. But I'll take it further than that, and also say that although I'm a believer in Christ, I'm also an existentialist, right? And I believe that ultimately there really is only one power, which is God, the Creator. So whether or not you're worshiping God, you're worshiping Satan, or you're worshiping nothing at all, in the end, everything bows down to the Creator anyway. So it's like, I'm not really here to adhere to any religion, to follow any specific dogma or institution. I've got my own personal connection. It just so happens that I follow it in a vague mannerism of Christianity, right? Anyways, let me just shut up and get back to Katt Williams here. Oh, actually, well, let me say real quick, that was pretty powerful what he just said right there about him collecting secrets for 30 years. So this whole time, his colleagues or whatever, his enemies, his competition, they dismissed the power of who he was as a person. I mean, the whole time he was observing, collecting secrets and blackmail. And he mentions in this interview, throughout the interview, that he got a lot of information from other people. And I'm assuming that these other people were his team of women, because he explains in this video that he likes to keep an entourage of women in his life. He's all throughout his life, he's always lived with multiple women, and he's got like 10 kids or something like that. So I assume he's got multiple baby mamas or something, but he definitely likes to have an entourage of women around him. And it's funny, he was saying that for 20 years, he hasn't rolled a single blunt, that he's got his personal blunt roller, and it's a woman. He's always had women roll his blunts for him, because he was saying if he were to have a guy roll his blunts, he would have had a mixture of men's saliva in and out of his body for all these years. So he likes to have women do a lot of the things for him throughout his life. And so I'm assuming that these women were the ones who were infiltrating parties, Hollywood events and meetings, and reporting back to Williams, to Katt, what they saw, what secrets they had. And that's something I can relate to, man, because to be honest, and this is strange, I don't know, like, I get that, because I too enjoy the company of women more than I do men, to be honest. And I don't know, man, that's a whole nother topic for another day. Although as a man, it's obviously important for me and for us to bond with other men, and I do that, for sure. I've had a lot of really close, relationships with friends, with men throughout my life, but unfortunately a lot of these men that were close to me, cousins, other family members, friends that I made along the way, a lot of them that were really close to me betrayed me, man, and again, that's a topic for a whole nother day. But I'm just saying, like, I understand enjoying the company of women more. Like, I'm really close to my sister, we're exactly a year apart. She's 1 year older than me. Really close to my sister. I've got a lot of female family members that I'm close to my mom. I've got a lot of female friends that honestly I'd rather hang out with. And while we're on the subject, I mean, this is a topic for a whole other video, but while we're on that subject, it's kind of interesting because a lot of people have posed the question, can men actually be friends with women? And look, as a man, I understand the complexity of that. And to be honest, I think it actually is pretty difficult for men to be friends with women and have no sexual inhibition. I'll be honest, it's pretty difficult. Because, I mean, if you're a straight man, you're going to find women gorgeous, and you're going to find, attributes that they have beautiful. You're going to find mannerisms that they have fucking gorgeous and sexy, you know, and that's just our nature. But this is why I think it's important as men to, procure and nourish relationships with women in their life so that we can discipline that part of ourselves. You know, like, yeah, sure, I've had my fair share of friends with benefits and that kind of thing, and that gets difficult, and you got to be adults and deal with that as it comes. But as I've aged, I've practiced disciplining those inhibitions. They're going to be there. That's a given. But I've practiced disciplining those inhibitions. And every now and then they can be let out if it's mutual. You know what I'm saying? But hey, sometimes, if I'm being honest, I have no inhibitions. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just, hey, honey, you know, we're just friends. You know, that's definitely happened too. And then it gets reversed where, like, they got the inhibition and I'm just not feeling it. So, like, it goes both ways. But I'm so off traffic. I mean, I'm so off whatever path right now. So off topic. But I just personally resonated with Katt Williams when he said that he enjoys the company of women more than men. Like, I get that. Like, I thought I was kind of weird for that, but like now I'm like, Katt Williams is a genius and a boss, and maybe that means I'm a genius and a boss. I don't know. I don't know, bro. It's just interesting how certain people have certain similar traits. You know, like, so, yeah. Anyways, let's get back to this.
Not afraid about being blackballed again?
These people are not powerful. Satan can't create anything. The number one job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is to act like it didn't happen. It's a cabal. It's a consortium. They canceled me for talking about Harvey Weinstein before the thing came out, but he offered to suck my penis in front of all my people at my agency. I told him no. What y'all do? And this is why when I walk in a room, heads go down.
What? Harvey Weinstein offered to suck Katt Williams' penile. That's fucking weird, dude. I mean, I don't know if he was like meaning that in a metaphorical way or if that really went down, but that is just wild, man. And if you go and watch this entire interview, he talks about some of these like meetings behind closed doors and how a lot of the movies he was a part of wanted to emasculate him, and how he said no. He stood up for the people and consistently said no. He was not going to play these roles where he was going to be emasculated, and he actually stepped in and was able to change the script on some of the movies that he was a part of to get rid of some of the strange stuff that they wanted him to do. And so he's been on the forefront of this battle in the public, behind the scenes for so many years. And I'm excited, and he's excited, as he says throughout this interview, because it's all coming out now. The truth is coming out. Like, that's what these Hollywood fuckers never anticipated. They thought they were going to be reigning supreme forever. That it was just going to be us, you know, in the seats and them on the big screen. And they were just going to scoot on by, you know, breeze on by, doing all the crazy nonsense behind closed doors without ever being, you know, questioned, without ever being exposed. This is what trips me out, man, about life, because so many people view it as like linear, as like surface level, you know, and they dismiss the power of the quantum. They dismiss the power of truth. They dismiss the power of people with morals. Here they were back in the 80s and 90s thinking it's all just linear, it's all just surface level, we can just keep going because we have the money and the means. They will never know what we do behind closed doors. While at the same time, Katt Williams was over here existing, you know, because it's not linear, it's vertical, it's quantum. They're over here, while at the same time on the other side of the globe, there are motherfuckers like us existing, and they don't understand that destiny and fate will come around, and it is coming around. Here we are now witnessing the quantum work of Katt Williams unfold as he tells the truth in front of millions of people, as he already has been doing. So that's what I'm saying, man. It's like, don't dismiss God's work. Don't dismiss the fact that just because you're here living your own little world and in your own little delusion, there aren't other real people doing real things on the other side of this very real realm, Earth, who will and can eventually cross your motherfucking path. Anyways, let's get back to it.
Pay you to not talk about things they don't want you to talk about.
You were a prodigy. You were brilliant. You talked to me that you got accepted to college at 7 years of age.
All right, so this part real quick. In this part, they go over his brilliancy as a child. And this is what I love about listening to podcasts and also studying people's biography and their story, because there's always these little pieces of information or these major pieces of information that we don't get in the general public about these people and their lives. And when you learn more about people and you study their success and you study their life, you start to see that it wasn't random. Nothing's random, for better or for worse. For example, Katt Williams, as we'll learn right now, was a genius as a baby. And I kind of always knew that because of the way that he carries himself. Like, he shares, to me, very similar traits as Prince did. And it's cool because I learned for the first time in this interview that him and Prince were actually friends, like close fucking friends. So that makes my heart happy because I love both of these dudes, from afar. I don't really know them in real life, but I've always respected the work they do. And I've always thought that they were very similar. I couldn't really understand why. It's like the voice, like, as strange as it sounds, although Katt Williams is a masculine man, to me, he's kind of always also had that androgyny in some of his mannerisms. And I don't mean that as disrespect. I really don't. Because as weird as it is, I believe, okay, obviously there's this whole agenda with trying to emasculate the world and masculinize the women and stuff like that. Obviously, there's a weird agenda with sexuality, and this again is a topic for a whole nother day. I do believe the highest forms of intellect supersede masculine and feminine. Hey, burn me at the stake. Do whatever you want to do. Cook me up and eat me as a burger, whatever. But I just believe that. I mean, because, for example, angels, like real angels, they're not male or female. They're just fucking intelligence. And this is a secret in the occult. Why do you think the occult wants this like androgyny thing so bad? Why do you think Baphomet is androgynous? Because the highest forms of intellect supersedes sexuality, supersedes male and female. But this shit that we have going on in the world today is like what's the word? It's a degraded form of that. So like Prince, for example, was highly intellectual, and he superseded male and female. He was androgynous in some sense. And as weird as it sounds, to me, Katt Williams has kind of always had a spark of that too. Again, not in a disrespectful way, like, it's just a weird intellectual thing that some people have. And come to find in this video that Katt Williams was a fucking genius as a kid, a wild genius. And so now it makes sense. I don't think I put this part in these clips, but he says that when he was like 8-10 years old, maybe even younger, he did some sort of presentation or performance in front of like tens of thousands of people, and he was wearing a tuxedo. Like, he was always on this path. So it was not random. You see, I love learning these things and studying people's stories because you see God's work. When you really step back and study people's lives, you can actually see the moments where God intervened and set them up to become the person they were going to be. And I love it because you see that all the way up until people's deaths. I love studying people's lives from birth to death, because the birth and the death are tell you everything you need to know, pretty much. And then everything in between is just kind of like the journey. And you can see where God intervened in, all throughout. And not to be morbid, but that's why I'm kind of so curious as to like the way I'm going to die. How's it going to happen? Like, it's got to be something fucking epic. But, yeah. And so like Katt Williams, like liking the company of women. That's a little androgynous, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like, and I have that same quality. A lot of times I'd rather be hanging out with women, is it because of my inhibitions? Maybe, but not only because of that. It's because I appreciate being around different forms of intellect, not just out here riding with my boys, you know what I mean? But also being out here indulging and gaining from the intellect and wisdom of the female aspect as well. So, anyways, man, check this out. The homie was a motherfucking prodigy.
Could read fluently at 3 years of age. So having that kind of knowledge, having that kind of, what was your upbringing? How was it?
I was often confused because I knew things and I wasn't sure how I knew them, because they told me when I was young that knowledge was powerful. That knowledge was power, and I had studied powerful people. My next project was to read the whole encyclopedia set. So when you're like 6, 7 years old, you read the whole encyclopedia set, you think you're one of the smartest people in the world,
right,
only to get out in the world and find out you don't know anything.
Very important right there. So yeah, he was a child prodigy, but I mean, the man read the encyclopedias back to back when he was a toddler, basically. But I like what he said right there. He thought he knew a lot until he got into the real world. You see, book smarts can only take you so far, and street smarts take you as far as you want. Really, because the world is just a ghetto. And I understand that, man. There's been a lot of times. I mean, to be completely honest with you, and I can't go into major detail, but almost everything that I've gained in this life when it comes to the matrix, right? Most of the status and material that I've gained in this life has been through street smarts. I was not a good academic. I was not an academic person growing up. I was not good at school. I remember being in middle school. As soon as I got my homework, I would just shove it in my backpack and I would never see that baby again. But I still was able to pass my classes. I learned how to cheat the system in little ways, and that translated into a lot of the other work and experiences that I've had in life. And again, that's a story for another day. You know what I mean? Like, you got to learn how to finesse the system. It finesses you, man. It finesses you. I don't believe in cheating good people. I don't believe in cheating good people and stealing from people. Although, I've had my fair share of being a knucklehead back in the day. As a man now, I don't believe in what's the word? Doing wrong to our fellow people, to the everyday people. Corporations, fuck them. You know what I mean? And I know it all trickles down to somebody's job. You know what I mean? We're all just people, right? It's like there's only a small percentage of like legit evil people in this world who are like diabolical and deliberately evil and like really for real want to see us all enslaved and murdered. And then everybody else underneath them is kind of just following orders, you know what I mean? Who like think they're doing good, but, are just kind of ignorant and blinded and naive. So like when I say fuck corporations, it's like I personally still don't believe in even stealing. Like some people, for example, growing up in the hood, we always use this excuse like, oh, I don't steal from people, but I steal from stores. Like I don't even really believe in that, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like I get it. Like if you're stealing from Walmart, it all trickles up, and in a way you're hurting the matrix in a way, but like I don't really view it that way because, again, the top is so small. Like, in a sense, you're kind of just hurting the rest of us when you go out there with a lawless attitude. Because, for example, when you go tag some shit up, it's going to be one of us that has to go clean it up. You know what I mean? When you go break some shit, it's going to be one of us who has to go fix it. When you steal some shit, I don't know how, but indirectly, one of us is going to have to fucking deal with that. You know what I mean? But hey, look, I grew up doing all that, so I'm not hating. Do what you got to do. But me, as a 29-year-old man at this point, I wouldn't steal a fucking grape anymore. You know, and I used to have a terrible stealing habit. I got arrested a few times throughout my young life because of stealing. But I just learned for myself the best way to protest the matrix, the government, the powers that be, and the best way to beat them is to not give them a single reason to be able to harass you. And look, this is coming from a motherfucker who has talked shit to cops straight in their face. Coming from a motherfucker who used to steal shit from stores and run. Motherfucker who you know, has been in trouble all throughout my school years. Like, I just learned for myself, man, I just got tired of being in handcuffs. I got tired of being handcuffs. I got tired of being on probation and not being able to live life. I got tired of seeing my parents just so sad and upset at my decisions, you know, and I could see where I was heading, and because of the people around me who were doing prison time, who were losing their life to drugs, I realized for myself, damn, you know what? The best way to get these motherfuckers, the best way to beat the system is to not give them a single reason to be able to harass you. That doesn't mean not do, you know, illegal things, for lack of better terms. And I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying, be so smart, actually smart, not arrogant. Be actually smart in what you do. Know the law. Finesse the law. And make sure you don't leave a single trace that these matrix agents can use against you. And make sure you don't give them a single viable, justifiable, legal reason to put you in cuffs. I'll give you one small story and we'll get back to this. I remember I was with some hoodlum friends of mine, you know, my day ones. And I say that with all love because I was a hoodlum. And long story short, we were at the casino. We just smoked a bunch of weed in my car, went into the casino, came back out. And there was 3 cops surrounding my car. And we're like, well, fuck, we have to get home and see what this is about. And, you know, of course, they smelt the weed on us. They tracked my car down and they're searching the car. And my friend left his weed and everything in the open in the back seat. And, you know, he didn't want, we're all standing there, whose weed is this? Whose weed is this? I'm not going to snitch, you know, but my friend didn't want to stand up either. He didn't want to stand up and be a man and say, you know what, this is mine. It's not my friend's, it's mine. Being that it was my car, I had to get the blame. And he didn't stand up. So I had to take the blame for that shit. You know, that caused some conflict between us, but we're all cool now. You know, it's all love between me and him now. I have to go to court for this, but I did my research. I'm like, there's no fucking way I can get busted for this. It wasn't mine. It was in the back seat. There's got to be some law somewhere that says, without me snitching, that this shit wasn't mine. And I found it. I forgot what it was called, but it was called like, if it wasn't in your actual possession, but in the area, within your immediate area, then it was like something else. So it's like some form of possession. And the crazy thing was, we were at the casino, so I had to go to to the Indian court, right? The Native American court, the reservation court. And I did a lot of my homework, so I came in there with the facts, and I said, Your Honor, like, it wasn't mine. It was in my whatever possession. And then he was like impressed. He's like, wow, like you did your homework. Wow, okay. He's like, well, because you're young and I see you did your homework, I'm gonna let you off with a warning. But I'm gonna warn you. Sounds like the people you are hanging around with aren't your real friends. And I took that, man. I took that, that information, that advice. So this is what I'm saying, man. It's like if you really want to fight back, we got to be really smart, man. We got to be really smart, not give them any viable, justifiable, legal reason to harass us. But obviously there comes a time where you ain't got a choice, man, but to physically fight back. Because when corruption is really corrupt and it becomes life or death, I mean, that's a whole nother thing, man. But, geez, I'm getting way off track. What the heck? Where were we even in this video? Let's get back to it.
At 5 years old, I was in front of 10,000 people giving a performance with a full suit and tie on. You know what I mean? So it came full circle. Jesus was my big homie. So you know how you get a story about a dude joined a gang and you get a big homie, right? Like at this particular point in my life, my thought is that the Bible is the greatest book that's ever been written.
Okay.
That it houses the truth, and that it gives you this story of Jesus, and that I'm supposed to be like him.
Okay.
So it's already in my head that as soon as I get 13, I'm leaving. I couldn't be that afraid because I knew what had happened with Jesus. I knew how it worked out. I knew that I wasn't in the wrong with how I was feeling, and I knew that I didn't have any bad intentions in it.
Right.
So I trusted God that it would work out. And the Chris Tucker that we got now.
All right, let's pause right there. Yeah, so he was just explaining that. Well, he says in the interview that him and his dad got into an altercation, and basically because of that, he decided to leave home at the age of 13 years old. And his role model was Jesus. His big homie was Jesus. And although he was concerned, he had no real fear because he understood that whatever would happen to him, as long as he spoke the truth and walked with the truth and was guided by Christ, that he couldn't be harmed in the afterlife and that he would be living his purpose. And again, look, I don't mean to sound cocky or whatever, but I'm similar in that same regard. I've always felt like I was called to a mission ever since I was a kid, and I don't know I didn't know exactly what it was or why. And actually there was a time in my life where when I was with my ex years ago where our relationship was bad, and I was just so frustrated because I felt like I needed to be doing more. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. I just have this vision or this feeling that I'm supposed to go and travel the world and be like this Jesus figure and just talk to people. This is way before Esoteric Eddie. And again, that sounds so arrogant, be this Jesus figure. I didn't mean actually be like some Messiah, but I just felt like I was on that archetypal path of going out and leading and speaking to people and healing. I didn't know why. I just felt so frustrated because I always felt that need and that calling. And I remember that was always a point of contention for me and her, because she always felt insecure that I was going to leave her. She felt like I was legit going to just one day get up and walk out and just leave and just go be like this hippie. But I always told her no, I'm not going to just leave. This is something I would do with your help, with your support. I just felt this frustration within me about that. And looking back, I feel like maybe I was feeling the stress of my future self, my future timeline. I could I was anticipating and intuitively feeling my future timeline, because that's literally what I've become now. I'm not a Jesus figure, but I've become this leading figure who has literally traveled the world at this point and who has spoken to millions of people attempting to educate, elevate, and heal. And so I'm just saying I understand Katt Williams. To be honest, I really resonated with this interview so much, as you can tell. Like, there's a lot of things about him that I'm finding are similar with me in my life, and I'm just like, damn, that's a trip. Yeah, like even the whole Illuminati thing, dude. I have "fuck Illuminati" tattooed on my ribcage, and like I've been shouting this on the rooftop since I was a kid too, but it's been maturing for me, and I've been finding more mature ways to again battle the system and actually educate, elevate, and heal people and myself as well. So to anybody out there who's feeling that, who's feeling like they have this calling, don't dismiss that. Don't let anybody dismiss that or shut that down. Find a way to hone in on it. Find a way to nourish it and healthily act it out and perform it. There's a reason why you're feeling that. There's a reason why you're feeling that calling, and it could be because you're intuitively feeling your path pulling you forward to it. Your future timeline. Anyhow, so I thought that was cool. Again, Katt Williams just has always been doing his work with God in mind, with Christ in mind. But in this next part, he talks about he talks briefly about Chris Tucker, the actor Smokey from Friday, being on the Epstein client list, which is wild. They just released the newer list. I haven't taken a look at it yet, but might do a video on that.
So I trusted God that it will work out. And the Chris Tucker that we got now is Epstein Island Chris Tucker, not Smokey. If I didn't know no better, I'd tell you he's the greatest. I don't care what you say. My goal was to get this far in Hollywood and still have a virgin asshole and never have sucked a penis. That was my only goal. We were both invited.
What the heck? I mean, hey, that's my goal every day in life, bro. Not just in Hollywood. Like, please, Lord, never let that be a situation for me. But man, he must have seen a lot, dude. He must have seen so much in his 3 decades of working out there. But this next clip, he talks about how him and Ludacris were in an Illuminati meeting together. And check out what happened.
To an Illuminati thing, and it had to be one.
Well, let me go back just a little bit. So, yeah, check this out.
Invited to an Illuminati thing, and it had to be one or the other of us, and decisions had to be made. So it was both of us, we were equal. One of us had to cut off all their hair and couldn't do the sideburn thing no more with the points. And the next person, they said, was going to get $200 million because they were going to pay him $10 million a movie to do 20 movies. And that's how the conversation happened. One of those persons turned out to be Ludacris, and the other person turned out to be Katt Williams. Now,
man, you see this Mark Zuckerberg building this 206?
Woo, hold up. All right, so that's wild. They got Ludacris. So he was saying at the height, early 2000s, him and Luda were sharing a similar archetype. And so him and Luda apparently were invited to an Illuminati meeting, as he says, and they were given a, dilemma, right? And they were presented with an offer. They said, look, we're going to give this offer to one of you guys. You both can't be holding this archetypal space. Only one of you can proceed as this Ludacris Katt Williams archetype. The other one is going to have to shave their head, tone it down, and do these motherfucking Fast and Furious movies and do what we say for, $200 million or whatever. Obviously, Katt Williams said, fuck that. And obviously, Ludacris said, pass me the clippers, man. Cut his head and bow down for the man. Damn, Ludacris went from move, bitch, get out the way to fucking, excuse me, sir, can I squeeze by? Motherfucking cuck for the system. I love how Katt Williams just talks about all of this stuff just so nonchalantly. You know what I mean? Like, I believe him, right? He has no reason to lie. You know what I mean? The man has stood on all 10 toes and told the truth for this long. It's just wild to think that, like, this is for real happening behind closed doors. Like, man, dude, this dude has to write a book, a tell-all book, and release that. That would be awesome. Anyways, back to this shit. So in this next clip, we're going to see them talk about Mark Zuckerberg's creepy bunker.
Katt Williams. Now,
Man, you see this Mark Zuckerberg building this $270 million bunker? What he building a $270 million bunker? What do you know that we don't know, Kat?
he knows that 30% of all weapons systems are running off regular Wi-Fi. That means if a solar flare or a meteor hits either one of those, literally a bomb can go off just because the system accidentally got turned off. The people that are in power know that the people that are running the most complicated and deadliest things on the planet are just an average idiot.
Bam. There you have it, folks. Yeah, I mean, shit. Mark Zuckerberg, is he preparing for an EMP attack? A lot of people are telling me that they think this is going to go down this year. And look, I'm not going to doubt it. And to be honest, that's probably the next big fucking thing. We're overdue for like a major electronic scare. That's what they've been doing these past, 20 years, is getting us so used to this stuff. You know, I mean, we can't live our lives without it. They got us in checkmate right now. We can't do anything without this stuff. And so, an EMP attack or whatever would definitely wipe out most people. So is Mark Zuckerberg getting ready for that? Maybe, dude. Maybe. I think so. So it's time to pick up some extra skills. Learn how to make a fire. Learn, how to build shelter and stuff like that. But I like what he said at the end, because this is something that I really agree with. He said that Mark Zuckerberg knows that the people who rule the world and who are in charge of a lot of these very critical weapon systems are just average idiots. People have asked me a lot throughout my entire esoteric career, content career. Who do you think runs the world? Who is the they? I'll tell you exactly who runs the world. You want to know who runs the world? People run the world. And people are fucking idiots. So, it's no wonder that our world is so messed up. Because people are stupid, and I'm one of them. There's no reptilians running the world. There's no draconians or zeta reticulans running the world. Sure, maybe. But I can tell you one thing for sure. You don't need those guys to run this world into the ground. You just need a few humans, because that's what we do. We're stupid. Humans are running the world, and there is no covert cabal running the world. The cabal that's running the world is very overt. Every single day throughout the entirety of human history, we have been systematically told who runs the world, how they do it, and why they do it. I mean, they don't hide this shit. It's overt. It's literally public knowledge. It's public information. Who owns the world, who operates the world, who's managing what. It's very overt. Sure, a lot of it's skewed and occulted, obscured, but again, it's just all humans. We're all fucking idiots. And that's the real scary truth about it, man. Yeah, I mean, like, you ever taken shrooms and just sat there and realized, like, oh man, like, we're all just peopling out here. You know what I mean? We're just peopling. And that's the scariest shit about this. We don't really know what the fuck we're doing. Oh man, I don't know why I'm cursing so much in this episode, but It feels good, damn it. You gotta get mad. And then you act. Right? Or however that quote goes. So yeah, man, Katt Williams definitely knows something that we don't know. And it makes sense that he knows something that we don't know because he's a 40, 50-year-old man at this point. Inching on 60. He's been in the game for 30 plus years. You got to know something at that point. You know what I mean? Just take a look around, man. Take a look around and start taking account of what you know. What have you observed about this earth, about people, the institutions? We all know something. We all got a piece of information that's worth being shared. Right? And people have been the same ever since, man. It's funny, and I got to do a video on this. One of the oldest texts available to us is a Sumerian text, of course. And it's this long text of basically what you would call laws or commandments. But it's advice from this older Sumerian who's giving this younger person life advice. And so it's like literally like just a super long list of things not to do, like commandments. And it's funny because in one of them, it says something about like prostitution, like you shall not buy a prostitute or something. It's like, God damn, bro. Like these OnlyFans chicks have been here since time immemorial, bro. OnlyFans chicks and simps have been here since time immemorial. Nothing changes. We've been humans since humans have been humans, bro. Nothing ever changes. It's just the fashion that changes. It's just the style that changes. It's the platform, like we've always been humans. We've just now had more toys, more weapons. You know what I mean? And it's just all an illusion because what do we do with everything? Everything that we create, we just like to reflect on us as humans. You know what I mean? Like, we'll write entire books about things we've done. Look, we're humans. We built this thing. And then this human 50 years later wrote a book about the thing we built. And then this human 10 years later wrote a book about the person who wrote the book about the thing that we built. It's like we're just all humans, humaning. Nothing's changed about us. The only thing that's changed about us is our accessibility to create more human things that we get to enjoy. Am I being too heady right now? Probably. Should I change my channel to Heady Eddie instead of Esoteric Eddie? Probably should. Anyways, y'all, I hope you found that interesting. And I wanted to let you know, if you're still watching, I plan to do a lot of new and interesting things this year. One of them being I'm going to launch a podcast format where I'm going to actually interview people in person here in my trailer. I've already got 2 interviews already done and ready to get edited. And I don't want to tell you the name or anything yet of the show, but it's going to be a new segment on my channel. I'm going to bring you unique voices, unique stories from people in my own life, friends, family, strangers. And every now and then maybe afford to get, really cool guests on here, special guests. But that is coming, folks. For all of you who have been asking for me to do more podcast formats, it's coming this year. I'm going to bring you some interesting, and I mean very interesting stories from my friends and family, strangers, and sometimes special guests. So stay tuned. I love you all. Again, this is not the end. It's just the end of an era, which means it's the beginning of another one. So live it up, homies. Live it up. You know what it is. Esoteric Eddie TV. Namaste. Peace.